Good day. Welcome to another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. Jesus Christ is Lord. Let's not waste no more time. Let's get right to it, shall we? So, Kwame Brown made a point on LeBron James the other day on his channel, Kwame Brown Bust Life. He made a point about LeBron James on his channel. And Jason Whitlock made an even better point. Okay. Of course, we all know the Lakers got kicked out 4-1 by the Denver Nuggets. Okay. And Jason Whitlock made a couple of points that I want to talk about. Kwame Brown made a couple of points that I want to talk about. So Kwame Brown talked about how Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan were absolutely obsessed with the game. If I'm correct. He talked about how Michael was obsessed with the game. He talked about how Kobe was obsessed with the game. And that's what made them great. I believe he said that LeBron James doesn't have that same drive like Kobe and Michael did. Kobe was obsessed. Michael was obsessed. They do anything to beat you. And that was the greatness of Michael and Kobe. Okay. So now here are the Lakers kicked out 4-1. And Jason Whitlock made a very interesting point. Okay. Jason Whitlock talked about systems and coaches. Okay. He talked about how LeBron James has had 8 coaches during his NBA career. Okay. Then he made a point that Michael, from the time he played high school basketball on up until the end of his career with Washington, from high school to 2003, Michael Jordan had a total of 8 coaches total. LeBron has had 8 coaches in the pros. Okay. So, starting with, that was Michael's high school coach. I believe the guy's last name was, Herring. Okay. Then you had Dean Smith, Bobby Knight at the 84 Olympics, Kevin Lockery, Stan Auerbach, Doug Collins, Phil Jackson, and Chuck Daly at the 92 Olympics. Yeah, so that's 8. Okay. So from high school to the end of Jordan's career with Washington, 8 coaches. Okay. LeBron has had 8 coaches since he's been in the NBA. Okay. And so he also made a point how LeBron is the ultimate coach killer. Okay. And you see teams like the Denver Nuggets, the Golden State Warriors. Golden State Warriors. you see teams that build systems, okay? Teams that build systems, and players have to buy into the system. And you look at and you wonder why. You all who are watching this video, you all wonder why we all gravitate towards old school basketball. You all wonder why we gravitate towards old school basketball. Because rarely do players today buy into systems, okay? The teams of old school basketball, they had systems, and the players bought in. The Boston Celtics of the 60s had a system. They bought in. The Lakers of the 80s, the Celtics of the 80s had a system. Bought in. The Bulls of the 90s had a system. They bought in. The Utah Jazz of the 90s, they had a system. Everybody bought in. Phil Jackson had that triangle offense, okay? What was the one thing that Jerry Sloan always talked about with his Jazz teams? What was the one thing Jerry Sloan wanted the Jazz to do? He wanted every player on his roster to compete. That was Jerry Sloan's main thing, compete. And that's what made those Jazz teams great, man. They were a mirror image of Jerry Sloan. You had Karl Malone. You had Stockton. You had Jeff Hornacek. You had the big dog Antoine Carr. You had Howard Isley. You had Greg Foster. You had Greg Ostertag. Okay. And so you had all these players who Jerry Sloan just wanted them to do one thing, compete. Okay. And that's what made those Jazz teams great. Tough, lunch pail mentality, and they competed. Okay. And the Bulls had the triangle offense. Phil Jackson, Zen Master, never panics, stoic, doesn't always show emotion. And of course, you had Jordan Pippen. That helps too, okay? But you also had Longley. You had Kerr. You had Bushler, Randy Brown, Ron Harper, The Worm, okay? All these players bought into the system, okay? So if Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen buys into the system, guess what? Everybody else is going to buy into the system. If Karl Malone and John Stockton buy into the system, all the Utah Jazz are going to buy into the system. If the Denver Nuggets of today, if Nikola Jokic buys into the system, the other players on the roster are going to buy into the system. And look at what they got them, an NBA title. With that being said, if LeBron James does not buy into the system, which he never really did his entire career, the other players won't buy into the system. They're going to follow LeBron James' lead. That's the point that Jason Whitlock was making. Okay. So, the best teams in NBA history have a system. The Lakers, the Celtics, the Bulls, even the Utah Jazz of the 90s, who never won the title, but they were consistently good. Okay? Because they had a system. And the Denver Nuggets are that rare team in the NBA that has a system and all the players buy in. And look what it's got them, an NBA championship. Celtics, Bulls, Jazz, Lakers, all have systems. Championships. NBA Finals appearances. Okay. Look at LeBron's career. When has he ever really bought into a system? Okay. We all know he wanted Eric Spoelstra fired in Miami. Then you had strong-willed Pat Riley, who was like, hell no. He's the man. He's in charge. Spoelstra's staying. So, yeah. LeBron gets coaches fired. He got David Blatt fired. We all know that. He's about to get Arvin Ham fired. Who else did he play for? He played for Paul Silas. He played for Ty Lue, Darvin Ham, Frank Vogel. Forget who else he played for, but yeah. Again, you wonder why people like you all watching this video gravitate towards old school basketball. Systems. Players buy in. And when they all buy in, you get beautiful basketball. And you get players who, and when you have a system, you have system, and when you have systems, when the players buy into the system, the players who come in, they have the luxury of being developed and replacing the next generation. Okay. Prime example is the 90s Bulls. Okay. Take the 90s Bulls. The first three, he peaked. There were three constants: Jordan, Pippen, and Jackson. Okay. There are three constants: Jordan, Pippen, and Jackson. Okay. So look at the second half of their three-peat. A totally new supporting cast. Still had the core: Jordan, Pippen, and Jackson. Okay. But the supporting cast, just like the supporting cast of the first three-peat, bought into the system. And the supporting cast of the second three-peat bought into the system. And what happened? 3 more championships. That's what happens when you have systems. And you have players who buy into systems. And players are developed. Okay. And players who stay together for a long time. Camaraderie. Okay. Look at LeBron James' teams he's played for. When can you ever say he's ever really had years and years and years of camaraderie with any team he played for? I'm just saying, he calls himself the GOAT, which he ain't. That's a fantasy right there. LeBron James ain't the GOAT. We all know that. Okay. He's trying so hard to diminish Michael's legacy. And he knows he can't do it. And he's doing everything he can by calling himself the GOAT, which he's not. Yeah, you can call yourself the GOAT, but at the end of the day, we all know it's Jordan, man. Come on. We all know it's Jordan. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Talk about those couple of things: systems, players, camaraderie. What happens when you have systems? You win championships, and you make multiple NBA Finals appearances. Now, granted, LeBron did make multiple NBA Finals appearances, but half the time he lost. So, yeah. Here's that. All right. That's it. And that's all for Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. Peace out. God bless. See y'all on the next one. I'm out. My bad. I forgot to mention two teams. The San Antonio Spurs. Okay. They had a system. Okay. Multiple NBA Finals. Multiple championships. The Detroit Pistons. The Pistons of the late 80s, early 90s. Okay. They had a system. Now it took longer. It took a little bit longer because of the Lakers and Celtics. Okay, it took a little bit longer, but eventually, the players, the system, the camaraderie, they all bought in. Back-to-back championships, and Rick Mahorn talked about this. Rick Mahorn said, when the Pistons would practice, Rick Mahorn said, they would have fights. They would have real fights at practice every time because Rick Mahorn said Chuck Daly would take the ball. He would take the ball, roll the ball out and say, here's the ball. Play for your minutes. And you had guys would get in fights in practice because they wanted to get their playing time, okay? So, yeah. The Pistons had fights because they wanted playing time. We all knew Joe was getting his. We all knew Isaiah was getting his. Lambert, Rodman, Aguirre. Yeah, but Rick Mahorn told a story where he said Chuck Daly would just throw the ball out during practice. Here's the ball. Play for your minutes. Back-to-back championships. All right. There you go. Now I'm done.